Namaste, Haribol. My name is Janapati Das, and we're here for the Shri Ishopanishad class. Please accept my respects, everyone. If you have not subscribed or commented on my videos, please do so. Encourage your friends to do so. And we are going to get into mantra 13 of the Shri Ishopanishad today. It's both purports by His Divine Grace Jagaguru, Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa, and His Divine Grace ACBhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So please accept my respects. Let me offer my most humble obeisances to my spiritual master Jagaguru and to my spiritual grandfather ACBhaktivedanta. And we are going to chant Krishna's names. So please join along to the sounds of rain and chanting. Krishna's mercy falling from the sky. Namo Buddhaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Iti Namine Namo Ishopanishad Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Siddha Haribo, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him. Okay. This is kind of a long chapter, so we may have to break this video up into two classes. But as usual, we will read through all the invocation and all the mantras we've read so far. Jai Shri Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as his phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as a complete whole. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete by itself, and because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things knowing well to whom they belong. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on doing work in that way, because that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma, and there is no alternative to this way for man. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. The personality of Godhead, although fixed in his abode, is more swift than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place he has control over those who supply the air and rain, he surpasses all in excellence. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away and he is very near as well. He is within everything, and again he is outside of everything. A person who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and sees all entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything nor any being. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks and qualities, one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What is there as illusion or anxiety for him? Such a person who must know, in fact, the greatest of all, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminate, the self-sufficient philosopher who is awarding everyone's desire since time immemorial. Those who are engaged in the culture of nescient activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the so-called culture of knowledge. The wise have explained to us that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and it is said that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of a transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the Absolute. Mantra 13. Anyad evahu sambhavadad babad sanyadahul asambhavat iti sushruma dilyanam yes nashtad vichakshile. Anyat, different. Eva, certainly. Ahu, it is said. Sambhavat, by worshipping the Supreme Lord, the cause of all causes. Anyat, different. Ahu, it is said. Ashambhavat, by worshipping what is not the Supreme. Iti, thus. Shushruma, I heard it. Diranam, from the undisturbed authorities. Yea, those. Naha, unto us. Taught about that subject matter. Vichakshile, perfectly explained. Translation. It is said that one result is obtained by worshipping the supreme cause of all causes, and that another is obtained by worshipping what is not supreme. All this was heard from the undisturbed authorities who clearly explained it. So our spiritual masters explain to us the supreme cause, the differences between this absolute truth, the absolute knowledge, the knowledge of the culture of knowledge, and the culture of nescience, the material knowledge. What's the difference? In this mantra of Shri Ishopanishad, the system of hearing from the undisturbed authorities is confirmed. I love that, undisturbed. Not disturbed by the material energy. He's completely focused on Krishna and serving Krishna and their spiritual master. Unless one hears from a bona fide acharya, who is never disturbed by the changes of the material world, one cannot have the real key to transcendental knowledge. So, the conclusion of the Vedic scriptures is to surrender to Krishna. Krishna is the source of all things. We should take shelter from Krishna and receive the knowledge about Krishna from our spiritual master, from a bona fide spiritual master. Otherwise, trying to engage into the material world, we are constantly frustrated. And, I heard this lecture recently. I've heard it before, but it's to take shelter of the names of Krishna is like being in the eye of a hurricane. And the hurricane is so, you can't, when you're in the hurricane, you're just whipped around left and right and can't find your way out of it. Except to come to the center where, you've seen these images like in the eye of the storm, it's completely peaceful and calm. And this is like our oasis of the names of Krishna. Krishna is a grounding force of our life. This is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna tells Arjuna just to surrender, abandon all the varieties of religion, abandon everything and just take shelter of Krishna. Unless one hears from the bona fide acharya who is never disturbed by the changes in the material world, one cannot have the real key to transcendental knowledge. The bona fide spiritual master who has also heard the Shruti mantras or Vedic knowledge from his undisturbed acharya never manufactures or presents anything which is not mentioned in the Vedic literature. So when you're approaching a spiritual master, if you notice that the spiritual master is just coming up with their own philosophy and just this or that, then they're not a bona fide spiritual master. You shouldn't listen to them. A true spiritual master never makes up anything of their own mind. They hand down the pure mango as it's been handed to them to their disciples. And the disciples are to take it and hand it down in its pure form. We don't change things. We don't manufacture things. We don't create things. We don't, jump around to unauthorized, and speculate about things and come up with, just the way that many people do. They speculate and it's tit for tat. They just kind of create their own things because they want to be the big man. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly said that the worshippers of the Pitas, our forefathers, reach the forefathers, the gross materialists who make plans to remain here in this world and remain here, and the devotees of the Lord who worship none but Lord Krishna, the supreme cause of all causes, reach him in his abode in the spiritual sky. So this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. What we are focusing our mind on at the end of our life, that we will go to. Here also is in Shri Ishopanishad, it is said that different results are achieved by different modes of worship. If we worship the Supreme Lord, certainly we will reach the Supreme Lord in his eternal abode. If we worship demigods like the sun and moon, we can reach these respective planets without any doubt. And if we want to remain here on this wretched planet with our planning commissions and our stopgap political adjustments, we can certainly do that also. That's pretty funny. So that's, a lot of talk, hearsay and talk about people who winning elections and making promises about free stuff and free buses and free food and free this and free that. And, everyone's like, oh, this is great. We're going to have all this free stuff so we can be happy and satisfied. But that's just foolish. Nowhere in authentic scripture that is said that whatever you do and whatever you worship, you will ultimately reach the same goal. Such foolish theories are offered by self-made masters who have no connection with the parampara, the bona fide system of disciplic succession. The bona fide spiritual master cannot say that for everyone who has his own mode of worship, be it worship of the demigods or of the supreme, it leads to the same goal. So this is a pretty popular philosophy. All roads lead to the same goal place, I remember there was a god sister of mine that when I started chanting, I made this analogy because I'd heard it also, but it was a little bit different in the sense that I was like, that there are different doors to open to one garden, and everybody gets fixated on the keys, but not all roads lead to the same place, and that's a very practical understanding. If you want to take a trip to Tokyo, you don't take a trip to New York. You can actually eventually get to Tokyo, but you eventually have to come to the path leading to Tokyo. And the most direct flight is a direct flight from Honolulu to Tokyo. Sometimes people have layovers in Sydney, and then they go from Sydney to, so there are methods by what they call a more of indirect way of getting to the same goal. But the direct goal is to chant Krishna's names. It's bhakti yoga. It's the most common goal, and it's foolish to say that all paths lead to the same place, because it's just not true at all. The bona fide spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master cannot say that for everyone who has his own mode of worship, be it worship of the demigods or of the supreme, it leads to the same goal. For a common man, it is very easy to understand that a person starting by train from Bombay can reach the destination for which he has purchased his ticket, and nowhere else. So here, Bhaktivedanta is using the train in India, the same idea. A person who has purchased the ticket for Calcutta can reach Calcutta, but a contemporary so-called masters preach that whatever spiritual ticket you may purchase, it will take you to the supreme goal. Such mundane and compromising offers attract many foolish creatures to become puffed up with their manufactured methods of spiritual realization, but the Vedic instruction doesn't uphold them. So sure, people can make things that seem very exciting and attractive, and they charge a lot of money, and they do it in some beautiful place like Bali or Tahiti or whatever, and they're just like, come learn this truth that it's just somebody who took a couple workshops and read a bunch of stuff online and became a self-proclaimed guru, and he just says that this way will lead to the truth. There's millions of stuff like this that it's just, you end up spending money left and right, and you just don't get the same results as you would by surrendering to a bona fide spiritual master. A bona fide spiritual master doesn't charge you for the absolute truth. It's free, Anybody who charges you for the absolute truth, you have to be kind of wary about. Unless one has received knowledge from the bona fide spiritual master, one who is in the recognized line of disciplic succession, one cannot have the real thing as it is, the Bhagavad Gita says. Thus, O chastiser of the foe, the yoga principles of the Gita were known to the great kings, but the parampara system being broken, these principles appear now to be lost. When Lord Shri Krishna was present in this world, the bhakti yoga principles defined in the Bhagavad Gita had become distorted, and so Lord had to reestablish the disciplic system, beginning with Arjuna, who was the most confidential friend and devotee of the Lord. The Lord clearly said to Arjuna that it was because he was his devotee and friend that the principles of the Gita were understandable to him. In other words, no one can understand the Gita who is not a devotee and friend of the Lord. This means that only one who follows the path of Arjuna can understand the Gita. So, in this day and age of Kali Yuga, we have a very simple process of sacrifice, and that is the Sankirtan Yajna, because in Kali Yuga we are very envious and stupid and short-sighted of the absolute truth that's taught in the Bhagavad Gita. So we are given the chanting of Krishna's names, which purifies our heart, so that we can come and understand the Gita, so that we can learn from within how to be a devotee of God and how to be a friend of Krishna, so that we can receive the absolute truth from our spiritual master. At the present moment, there are many interpreters of this sublime dialogue who have nothing to do with Arjuna or Lord Krishna. They interpret the verses of the Bhagavad Gita in their own ways and postulate all sorts of rubbish in the name of the Gita. So yeah, we've gone through this before, why many of these Bhagavad Gitas are unqualified, because their interpretations are coming from the speculation and the minds of these envious people who are not friends and not devotees of Krishna. Such interpreters believe neither in Shri Krishna nor in his eternal abode. So then what can they explain about the Bhagavad Gita? The Gita clearly says that only those who have lost their senses worship the demigods. Krishna ultimately advises that one should give up all other ways and modes of worship and fully surrender unto him only. Those persons who are cleansed of all sinful reactions can have such unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord. Others will continue hovering over the material sphere with their paltry ways of worship, and thus be misled from the real path under the false impression that all paths lead to the same goal. In this mantra, the Sanskrit word sambhavat, worship of the supreme cause, is very significant. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and everything that exists has emanated from him. In the Gita, the Lord explains himself. He says that he is the creator of everyone, including Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And because these three principal deities of the material world are created by the Lord, he is the creator of all that exists in the material and spiritual world, in the spiritual worlds. In the Atharva Veda, it is similarly said that one who existed before the creation of Brahma and one who enlightened Brahma with Vedic knowledge is Lord Shri Krishna. So even in the Vedic conclusion of the Vedas, which has so much stuff that, reading it is not recommended by, anyone, we hear from our pure devotee of Krishna about the cream of the Vedas, like the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. But here we can understand from the pure devotee what is really said in the Vedas about Krishna. The Supreme Person desired to create the living entities, and thus Narayan created all of the beings. From Narayan, Brahma was born. Narayan created all the Prajapatis. Narayan created Indra. Narayan created the 8 Vasus. Narayan created the 11 Rudras. Narayan created the 12 Ajitas. But this Narayan being the plenary manifestation of Lord Krishna, Narayan and Krishna are one and the same. There are later readings also which say that the same Supreme Lord is the son of Devaki. His childhood with Devaki and Vasudeva and his identity with Narayan have also been confirmed by Sripad Shankaracharya, even though Shankara does not belong to the Vaishnavas, a personalist cult. So Sripad Shankaracharya, the founder of the monist philosophy of yoga, what we call impersonalist, in fact, what we've been referring to in this whole Shri Ishopanishad as impersonalism or monism, was an incarnation of Lord Shiva, instructed by Lord Krishna to come as Sripad Shankaracharya to facilitate the removal of Buddhism from India and the reinstatement of the Vedic principles, even if it was monists. But even him, he had said that Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are still other readings also in the Atharva Veda, such as this: only Narayan existed in the beginning, and there was no existence of Brahma or Shiva, nor of Agni, the fire, nor of water. There were no stars, there was no sun, no moon. He does not remain alone. He creates as he desires. In the Moksha Dharma it is said, I created the Prajapatis and the Rudras. They have not complete knowledge of me because they are also covered by my illusory energy. In the Varaha Purana it is said, Narayan is the supreme personality of Godhead, and from him the four-headed Brahma became manifest, as also did Rudra, who later became omniscient. Thus, all Vedic literatures will confirm this view that Narayan or Krishna is the cause of all causes. In the Brahma Samhita, also it is said that the Supreme Lord is Shri Krishna. He is Govinda, the delighter of every living being, and he is the primeval cause of all causes. The really learned person will know all this by the evidence of great sages in the Vedas, and will thus decide to worship Lord Krishna as all in all. Persons are called Buddha, are really learned, who fastened themselves only to the worship of Shri Krishna. Buddha, of course, comes from the word buddhi, which means wisdom or intelligence. That intelligence is understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This conviction, so Lord Buddha, who was an incarnation of Shri Krishna, was, also teaching a particular, it's not just because we don't follow Buddhism or the philosophy of Buddhism that we don't offer our respects to Lord Buddha, because we understand that he is an incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna, and his purpose was particular, like Shripad Shankaracharya, to reinstate Vedic concepts such as ahimsa, nonviolence, and forbid the eating of animal flesh, which had become predominant and corrupted in the Vedic system by the Brahmanas. This conviction can be established when one hears the transcendental message from the undisturbed Acharya with faith and love. One who has no faith in or love for Lord Krishna cannot be convinced of this simple truth. Such faithless persons are described in the Bhagavad Gita as mujas, foolish as the ass. So if you're deluded and thinking that you are great, that you are, you're Krishna, you are the center of everything, and you are interpreting scripture like the Bhagavad Gita with your great knowledge and speculation in your mind of what that means, and you don't really understand or love Shri Krishna, of course you're not going to have any kind of insight into the Bhagavad Gita, and so your purport is completely ridiculous, which most of these translations are. One who is disturbed by the whirlpool movement of the material energy is not qualified to become an acharya. So I like this idea of the whirlpool, and the same idea as what I was saying earlier, this hurricane, being affected by the hurricane of the material world. You have to come center to Krishna, to your acharya. The acharya is not different than Krishna, because he is Krishna, the manifestation of Krishna's mercy in this material world. Before hearing the Gita, Arjuna was disturbed by this whirlpool, the reaction of family, society, and community affection, and thus he wanted to become a philanthropist and a non-violent man of the world. But when he became Buddha, by hearing the Vedic knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Person, he changed his decision and became a worshiper of Lord Shri Krishna. So Buddha is just a pure devotee, really. One who has himself designed the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna worshipped the Lord by fighting with his so-called relatives, and thus became a pure devotee of the Lord. Such achievements are possible only by worshipping this real Krishna, and not by worshipping some fabricated Krishna, inaugurated by foolish men who are without knowledge of the intricacies of the science of Krishna described in the Gita and in the Srimad Bhagavatam. According to the Vedanta Sutra, the Samabhuta is a source of birth and sustenance, and the reservoir after annihilation. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentary upon the Vedanta Sutras by the same author, comments that the source of all emanations is not a dead stone, but an abhijna, or fully conscious. Therefore, the primeval Lord Sri Krishna says in the Gita that he is fully conscious of the past, the present, and the future, and no one, including demigods such as Shiva and Brahma, know him fully. Those who are disturbed by the tides of material existence cannot know him fully. Such half-educated spiritual masters try to make some compromise and make the mass of human beings the object of worship. They do not know that such worship of the masses is not possible, nor are the masses perfect. This is something like pouring water on the leaves of the tree instead of watering the root. The natural process of worship is to pour water on the root of the tree from which the leaves grow. But today's disturbed leaders become more attracted by the leaves than the root, and therefore, in spite of perpetually watering the leaves, all is drying up for want of nourishment. So, coming back to this idea of leaders and the politicians with their promises of making things better in the material world, completely are missing the point. They are watering the leaves of the tree with all their promises, or even maybe successes in, making some things better materially. They don't really deal with the spiritual drought that is going on. If they had surrendered to Krishna and they were Krishna conscious, now that would be a different situation. If they were watering the root, encouraging people to chant Krishna's names, then we could live in a peaceful society. We could live in a very communal society where people are taking care of each other. Shri Ishopanishad advises us to pour water on the root, the source of all germination. Worshipping the mass population by rendering bodily service, which can never be perfect, is less important than the service to the soul. The soul is the root, generating different types of bodies in terms of the law of karma, or material reaction. To serve only the human being by medical aids, social amenities, and educational facilities, while cutting the throats of poor animals in slaughterhouses, does not add up to any valid service to the living beings. There's a comment right there. The living being is perpetually suffering from the material disease of birth, death, old age, and disease, and different types of body. The human form of life is a chance to get out of this entanglement of material existence. This can be done simply by reestablishing the lost relationship of the living entity with the Supreme Lord. And the Lord comes personally to teach us the philosophy of surrender unto the Supreme, the Sambhutam. Real service to humankind. I'm just wondering if that was a word in the Sambhavad. I was just seeing if that word was in here. There was Sambhavad. Anyway. Real service to humankind is to teach surrender unto the Supreme Lord and to worship him only with full love and energy. That is the instruction of Shri Ishopanishad in this mantra. The simple way to worship the Supreme Lord in this age of disturbance is to hear and chant about his great activities. The mental speculators, however, think of the activities of the Lord as imaginary, and therefore they refrain from any such hearing process and invent some jugglery of words without any substance to divert the attention of the poor, innocent mass of people. Instead of hearing the activities of Lord Krishna, they prefer to advertise themselves by inducing their followers to sing about the pseudo-spiritual master. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, this also goes to these sort of political figures who've become larger than life, and people are chanting their names, Mamadi, 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 Mamandadi, or whatever his name is from, or, Kamala Harris, Trump, whatever it might be. They sort of In modern times, the number of such pretenders has increased in considerable numbers, and it has become a problem for the pure devotees of the Lord to save the mass of people from the unholy propaganda of these pretenders and initiation and incarnations of God. The Upanishads indirectly draw our attention to the primeval Lord Shri Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita, which is a summary of all Upanishads, directly points out Shri Krishna. One should therefore hear about Krishna as he is in the Gita or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that will gradually help him in cleansing his mind of all contaminated things. The Bhagavatam says, by hearing the activities of the Lord, one draws the attention of the Lord towards the devotee, and the Lord, being situated in the heart of every living being, helps the devotee by giving him proper direction. The Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. The inner direction of the Lord cleanses the heart of the devotee of all dirty things which are produced by the material modes of passion and ignorance. So not only is it the goal, it's also the process of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is a purifying agent to help us achieve Bhakti Yoga in its ultimate form. It's a continual, eternal process. The non-devotees are under the direction of passion and ignorance. By passion, one cannot become detached from material affinity, and by ignorance, one cannot know what he actually is and what the Lord is. Thus, in the state of passion, there is no chance for self-realization, however much one may play the false part of a religionist. For a devotee, by the grace of the Lord, the modes of passion and ignorance are removed, and he at once becomes situated in the quality of goodness, the sign of a perfect Brahmana. This stage of Brahminical qualification can be earned by anyone and everyone, provided he follows the path of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So that is a sum bonum right there. That is what happened in the Bhagavad Gita, and that's what happens in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The spiritual master guides the disciple to Krishna. The Bhagavatam says that any low-born living entity can be made purified under the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord, because the Lord is so extraordinarily powerful. So that being, as we're reading these things, you got talking about those people that are in ignorance and passion cannot know who they really are, and those people in passion have a hard time surrendering to God. So we just give them the very simple. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in this age because he knew this is what most people would be like in this age of Kali, just ignorant, stupid, full of passion. And we were given the chanting of Krishna's names and eating of prasadam. So even if we're jokingly chanting the names of Krishna, we're in the proximity, we're being purified. So that it purifies our heart. We may be doing all other kinds of things in the modes of passion and ignorance, but when we find, this chanting of Krishna's names is so wonderful. And when I listen to the spiritual master, I'm starting to understand these things, and those attractions that I had for those things in the modes of ignorance and passion are kind of dropping away. They're not as exciting. I don't really want to have anything to do with. I know that they're dragging me down. They're pulling me down. So I'm staying away from them because I'm not attracted to them. It's a wonderful process. The Bhagavatam says that the Bhagavatam says that any low-born living entity can be made purified under the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord, because the Lord is so extraordinarily powerful. The first sign of Brahminical qualification is the candidate becomes happy and becomes enthusiastic in the matter of devotional service to the Lord. So Krishna comes as his holy names, and Krishna is present in his holy names. So by even hearing Krishna's names once, it's very attractive to the living entity, even if they maybe externally don't show that. In their heart, they're experiencing something. This unveils before him automatically all about the science of God. It unveils, it comes forth, and as we hear more and more and we chant more and more, we are hearing what Krishna is telling us through via the lips of the bona fide spiritual master. And thus, knowing the science of God, he gradually becomes loosened from his material attachments, and his doubtful mind becomes crystal clear by the grace of the Lord. In this stage, only one become a liberated soul and see the Lord in every step of life. That is the perfection of Sambhavat, as described in the mantra of Shri Ishopanishad. So wonderful, so beautiful, and exactly Krishna says it right here. And you follow the process. Now you may be saying, I'm not really experiencing that, but I have a little bit of faith that I'm chanting Krishna's names because I enjoy that. I'm happy that, and I have, because it's attractive to me, I'm going to go keep doing it, and I will get that little kernel of faith that just takes me to the kirtan instead of going to the bar or going to the club at night. I'm going to go to the kirtan, and the more and more I do that, the more and more I find, you know what, I'm really feeling happy and very satisfied. And what Bhaktivedanta, when I hear this from Bhaktivedanta or from the pure devotee of Krishna, I say, you know, that's what I'm experiencing right there. Exactly. So in this age of information, we accumulate knowledge. We plug things in. We make a great big jigsaw puzzle of things we heard. We think, you know, that sounds pretty good. I like that. I like that. I like that. I'll put that in there. You know, and that will be my philosophy or my view of the world. But in Bhakti Yoga, the information is coming. That is more of an ascending process of accumulating. By the power of my mind, by the power of my learning capability, I will create a philosophy that will explain everything. But the descending process is that the information is coming down via the spiritual master who received it from his spiritual master, and so on and so on. We can see this in the Bhagavad Gita. We can see it in the stories of the Srimad Bhagavatam when spiritual masters instruct the students. And when they have that experience by applying the instructions of the spiritual master, most importantly, the chanting of Krishna's names, then they start to have a taste of happiness, and they start to have the spiritual vision, the spiritual eyes that Krishna gives the devotee who chants, the purifying of the dust in the heart, or the mirror of the mind. So many analogies. And so this is very wonderful. And what we're going to do is we're going to call that for the video. We'll read, because Jagaguru's purport is pretty long, and I think this video will end up being very, very long. So I'm going to split it into 2 videos. So it'll be mantra 13 with two different purports. So thank you very much. Namaste.